Hey guys, Andy here again with the Pixel 2 that you may have seen the unboxing. In my time, real time, I only unboxed it sort of 3 hours ago. And here is the device itself. So I've not had a great deal of time. It's not my own phone, so I've not really been able to use it to get a proper feel for it. I'm just going to give you some of my thoughts, having dabbled with it for sort of an hour and a half or so. We'll start off with the design. I'm going to try. So I talked about the design, the hardware, and the camera specs in the unboxing. I'm going to go over them fairly quickly now. Do look back at the unboxing though if you want a bit more in that. So the big issue, or the big topic on the Pixel 2 is the bezels. Now I'm not too bothered by bezels, but some people have got quite upset by how big they are. But it does mean that they house the front-facing speakers, which I think are very good. So a very quick listen. There we are, we're on Ed already. Now, they're not amazing. You're not going to throw out your Bose speaker system or something, but for a phone I thought they're pretty good. They're quite loud, so in my testing they scored the second highest score I think I've ever had, 101.1 decibels, beaten only by 0.02 by the Nexus 6P. So there's good level of volume to them, but also reasonably well-rounded sound, I think. So for a phone speaker, and I did read on a forum that someone said, "Oh, it's still not as good as the iPhone." I don't know. I don't use iPhones. I can't really compare to that, but I think that's some of the best speakers I've heard on an Android phone. Let's put it that way. I do like the design, the sort of recognisable glass. Well, it's a window in some ways at the back for the antennas. I like that's kind of Google's thing now. You look at the Pixel book; they've done the same on that. I love the texture. I don't know how if the mic picks this up, but it's kind of a matte feel to it. It just makes it very grippy. It's not the one. Was it the OnePlus One or the OnePlus 2 that had almost like a sandpaper back, and it was, you know, like rubbing your fingers on it. This is fine. This is, well, it is fine. In fact, it's kind of a fine coarse. It just makes it feel really grippy. The device is IP67 certified. That's 1 meter for 30 seconds. So you're fine if you drop it in the bath or something. Sure, you should be. It's 7.8 millimeters thick and it's 143 grams. To me, it feels a lot lighter than that, but it might be because I'm used to my big old Pixel XL. There isn't an SD card slot, which I can't help but wonder, could they not put it in like a lot of the Chinese phones do in the SD card, in the SIM card tray? But there we go. As you can see there, it's got an always-on screen. Because of the metal back though, there is no wireless charging, but the USB Type-C, again, I've not really had a chance to sort of test the battery and the charging and how quick it is and things like that. But I think it charges at like 18 watts, so it should be pretty snappy. Comes in 3 colours, kind of blue, just black, and clearly white. I think the blue actually looks gorgeous, but actually, I mean, I do quite like this sort of classy looking black. The hardware itself, the screen is a 5-inch 1080 by 1920 AMOLED screen, so that's 441 pixels per inch. It's got about a 67.9 screen to body ratio, so that's where the bezels come into play. Other phones have much higher ratios than that. I did test the screen brightness with my light meter and it scored 795 lux, so not quite as good as the Pixel XL, but I mean as good as you could say, and not quite as good as the Samsung, still sitting right at the top of the charts. The glass is Corning Gorilla Glass 5. I would say the screen looks really nice. I mean, I don't know, there's not a huge amount more you can say about it other than it's very crisp. I love the colours on it. Don't seem to be any problems, I don't think, kind of viewing angles or funny tints at different angles. All seems good there. The CPU is the chipset, is the Snapdragon 835. They had hoped, or there were rumours at least, that it would come out with the 836. It would be the first phone that had the 836, but I just don't think Snapdragon had it ready in the end, unfortunately, so we were with the 835. Obviously still the latest chip, it's just a shame it's not kind of the first one on the newer chip. The CPU is an octa-core, 4.2 4 times 2.35 gigahertz cryo and 4 times 1.9 gigahertz cryo. The GPU is an Adreno 540. This version is 128 gig of storage with 4 gig of RAM, but it's also available in 64 gig. It has the active edge, which I will show you there. By squeezing the sides, you get a bit of a haptic feedback, and then
here are some results from the web.
Oh, it was actually listening to me while I was talking. Yeah, you get haptic feedback that it's worked. It can be done from screen off, which is quite like. So if your phone's on the desk, you can just give it a quick squeeze, and there you go. So I actually quite like that. I know a lot of people are saying it's a bit of a gimmick, but I think anything that kind of breaks down the barriers to using Google Assistant. One of the barriers is kind of people don't want to be saying okay Google, okay G, or in public perhaps or whatever, or sometimes just kind of I've got to unlock it and get into the what do I press again. And if you can just give it a quick squeeze and talk to it, I actually think that's quite a good option. We've mentioned the Type-C connector at the bottom. Did I mention the lack of the headphone jack? That's another sort of controversial point. To me, I'm not that bothered. I've been using Bluetooth headphones for the last kind of 3 years or so, but I'm sure, well, I know there are some people that are very upset by it. You do get an adapter, excuse me, in the box, which means you can plug in your wired headphones. It just means you can't charge it at the same time unless you buy the special adapter for that, which means you can charge and listen, which I think is about £9. No, that was the actual dongle, is £9. I forget. I think the other adapter is quite expensive. So let's talk a little bit about the software. So obviously it's stock Android, being a Pixel. Oh, do you see that? Look, oh, it's gone again already. I'll show you. I've got a screenshot. Basically, it popped down saying the Pixel. You can use a hotspot from your Pixel XL, because my Pixel XL is sat just over here to the side. There's no SIM in this device at the moment, and it's basically saying you can use the other phone to connect to the internet if you wanted. Obviously, it's on Wi-Fi, so I'm not quite sure why it was offering that, but. So it is stock Android 8.0. One of the other very noticeable things you'll see straight away is search bar is down at the bottom. I quite like it. It's a lot more accessible from your thumb. Just tell me it's got my location. That's fine. Then the other thing is Google Lens. So I'm going to go into the camera app briefly. I'm going to have to go in and let's just get. So that's not what I want. Here we go. That's what I want. Right. So. This, I think the big point here is it's still in a preview. Fair enough. So it's kind of recognised it as a motorcycle. It's even given me a picture of, well, the picture it showed, it looks like it might even be a KTM. I mean, obviously, it's just kind of matched the colours up. And I suppose it's partly what I wonder about with this is it not just Google goggles? So Google goggles actually came out. October 2010. I did look it up. I was trying to remember when it was. October 2010. So that's 7 years ago. Google goggles came out, and I remember pointing at a painting on a wall using Google goggles. It told me who the artist was. It told me where I could buy a print of it and all this kind of thing. We're 7 years later, and it's big news that Google Lens can point at an album cover and tell you what the album is. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all in favour. The bits that I've seen that Google Lens will hopefully be able to do look amazing. But right now, it's just still, to me, Google goggles. I think I did this one as well. Let's see what it tells us this time. Tree. It tells us a tree. That's quite handy. Thank you. And this one, it's going to tell me, hey, that's actually right. Okay. I take some of that back, because when I did this earlier, it told me there were flowers, but it's actually, by the looks of it, it has identified what they are in the photo. So that, yeah, I'll give you, that is pretty cool. I'm just thinking, is it that far different from what we had 7 years ago? So I'm hoping that Google Lens is going to go, oh no, I've got motion on actually, I didn't realise that. Let's turn motion off. So yeah, there are motion photos. We're going to come to the camera in a little bit, but I guess it's part of the software. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I do like it. I do like what they show. It's going to be able to do like live translations from packets of product from China or whatever. It looks great. So hopefully it's going to really grow into something very powerful. So then we've got the Now Play. Let me see if we can get it working with if I borrow my Pixel. Now I might need to find some. What I do? So let's start playing that. See if it. So typically when I need it to, it doesn't work. I can assure you it does work. I'm watching Luther at the minute on Netflix, and the end credits started rolling, and I got up to take some rubbish to the bin, and I looked at my phone and it was telling me the track on the end credits was something by Muse, and that was just from playing on the TV. I don't quite know why it wouldn't do it from. Maybe the phone's not a good enough like sort of likeness almost. There's no bass in it, so it's harder for it to. I'm not gonna worry about, because the other problem as well with me playing music, I could get the video taken out from YouTube. So I kind of just I'll say, trust me, it does work. Yeah, it works. There's not much more to say. I actually really like it. It was quite fun to see who was the end credit music playing of Luther. It's not on by standard. Let me show you real quickly where you have to go into settings, which is kind of new in Android 8. I want them to stop moving things around though. Let us get used to where they are. So we go to sound, we go to advanced, because it's off by default. Now playing, look, show unlock screen, also show notifications, both on. Does it tell us there? Yes, it works offline. Nothing is being sent to Google. I know some people might be a bit cautious, because you've got that microphone that's always listening for you saying, okay, Google. What was I talking about? The now playing. Yes, I showed you how to turn the now playing on. It's all done locally, so it's not sending everything that you're talking about back for Google to then try and find out if there's music playing. It does it all on the phone. Because it's all on the phone though, it only does about 10,000 songs, so you won't. That's why I was playing something from, I don't know, 20 years ago. It wouldn't necessarily recognise that. It needs to have a bit more current, basically. Picture in picture is an interesting one. So let's go back to YouTube. Now, in theory, you're playing Ed again. People that don't like Ed are gonna hate me. You press home and it should go picture in picture, but what I'm reading is that's only if you've got YouTube Red. That's not even available in the UK, so I don't know what we're supposed to do with that. Now, there is a workaround. Have I still got the browser open? Oh, it opened up. Here we go. So, still Ed, look. Oh, he says that. And oh, yeah, I know what I forgot to do. Turn it down a bit. Honestly, it does work. There we go, look. You see that? So strangely, it works just fine on Chrome, but not in the YouTube app, which just seems a little bit backwards to me, but that's where we are. So there's picture in picture. That works as well for Google Maps. I found that really handy actually when I was navigating. I had to ring my mum, I think it was. So you come out of it and you go to the dial, and there's little sort of map directions are still showing on the screen. Really handy. So picture in picture, great, but a bit limited. YouTube one you would want it with. Apparently it will work with other apps if they're set up for it to work with them. I do love the new live wallpapers. So this one, as you can see, sorry, is the globe. It kind of spins a bit as we slide side to side. The living universe ones are pretty cool. So this one I really like. So it's just some like mountain pass in, well, wherever it is. And if do you see down there? There's cars driving along the road. I think that's brilliant. I don't know why. It's quite cool. There's other ones as well. Obviously, there's quite a few. Let's go stick with the living universe. There's one where there's hot air balloons. They gradually are slowly floating across your screen, which is pretty cool. There are other ones that show you kind of. I'm not actually entirely sure which ones they are. No, they must be the ones up at the top. So some of them basically would. I don't think it's these ones. I think these ones you just play with. It's like you got some kind of stuck under the screen. It's kind of fun. There are some which kind of adapt and change depending on what your battery level is and things like that. Again, like I say, pretty kind of cool. I've already mentioned the Active Edge, which I do really like. Can be used from anywhere. So software wise, oh, and there's also double tap to wake. So obviously we've got the always on screen. Thankfully it doesn't kind of just wake up if you wanted to put it in your pocket, but oh, goodness, why? There you go. That is the first time it didn't work. I've been using it last hour or so. Maybe I just didn't tap firmly enough. It seems pretty responsive. So let's talk about the camera. The rear camera, 12.2 megapixels, f1.8. The lower the number, the better. The lower the number, the more light can get in when it's in dark situations. 1.8 is pretty good. There is, I'm sure one of the phones got a 1.6 on the market at the moment, but 1.8 otherwise is pretty much the best you're going to find. It's got OIS and EIS, but I've not really seen mention of that in reviews. They talked about it in the presentation back on October 4th, but nothing really since then. In theory, it means you should have much more stable photos. I sort of tested this by walking across my back garden at quite a pace. I'm watching it back. I mean, it's not perfect. It is pretty good. It's still the funny kind of artificial movements, but there's not the actual kind of thud of me walking. The back camera can do 2160p at 30 frames per second. It can do 1080p at 120 frames per second. And then the almost standard 720p at 240 frames per second, which I thought gave pretty good result. I mean, I just tested it by kicking some leaves about, but you know, it looks like it would be good. I like it's quite easy to adjust which bit is slow motion and which bit is regular motion in the camera app. The front-facing camera is 8 megapixels, f2.4, can do 1080p video. So let's move on first of all to portrait mode, because that seems to have caused quite a lot of discussion. Some people loving it, some people thinking it's rubbish. So let's have a look at. So this one, that is a portrait mode photo, and one thing I'd just like to show you that you can kind of slide it on and off almost. So that's no portrait mode. That's portrait mode. No portrait mode. Portrait mode. I think that looks amazing. You know, it's really, I think it's really crisp around all the edges, and the sort of blur to non-blur, fantastic. So I'm not quite sure why some people have a bit of an issue with it. Let's see. I'm sure we've got. Oops. There's an indoor one. This was actually quite dark, but you wouldn't have believed it. So I'm only really lit up by the screen off my monitor. Well, I suppose it was still light outdoors, but. And then this one on the desk of the old cap. Again, we can slide it on or off. So yeah, I personally love the portrait mode. The camera, all in all, I thought was very good. I mean, obviously it's going to be very good, I suppose, because it is the highest ranking scoring camera on DxO that there's been. But generally, you look at the pictures, I thought they're really crisp. The colours look good. They're nice and sharp. Even in some of the low light situations, it makes them look, you know, you just wouldn't believe they're low light, basically, looking at the images. The video, again, looked good. The image stabilization, generally very good. Yeah, I mean, there's not a huge amount more to say. I've got to be honest, I was a little disappointed by the low light video, though. That wasn't as good as I was expecting. It looked almost, I mean, I actually double checked the lens. I hadn't left some kind of protection over it, because it looked a little bit kind of not wishy-washy even, just kind of hazy almost, perhaps. And I'd been hearing how good it was in low light. Having said that, I took a couple of photos at the same time in the low light, and I think they did come out, I would say, very good for the conditions. Again, you can't, it's so hard because you can't actually, you know, you're not there with me seeing how dark it is when I'm taking the pictures or doing the video. So it's kind of hard to, I know so you've got a photo to see of it, but what I'm saying is I suppose the photo makes it look lighter than it really was. What else to know about? So, yeah, I mean, we've got unlimited storage until 2021, I think, for Pixel owners and their devices. So obviously that's quite good news. The battery, so as I say, all I can tell you really, it's a non-removable Li-ion 2700 mAh battery. Some people have a bit of concern that that's too small. I don't think that'll be the case. I think with a 5-inch 1080p screen, and from what other actual reviews that have used the device for prolonged periods of time, they say it's okay, gets you through the day. The XL does last an hour or two more, but this is, 2700 is fine. So yeah, I don't think there's anything to worry in that respect. So overall thoughts on the phone? I think it's fantastic. It's really good. I know a lot of people sort of worry about the price and is it really worth it. So this one, being the 128 meg, was £729. The 6 meg, 128 gig, the 64 gig version was $629, which is a lot of money. Unfortunately, that's the way we've gone. There are obviously there's cheaper options if you don't want to spend that much. But you always can have some kind of compromise, almost always, with those other sort of mid-range devices. I mean, you kind of have some compromises, and I guess in this case it's the bezels. that's not really a compromise to me. I'm fine with that. I don't think it makes it look ugly. I know a lot of people say, oh, it makes it look so dated. Well, only sort of in the last year or so have Edge to Edge, maybe not even that long, has Edge to Edge really come to the forefront. So, I don't know, it just doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, yeah, maybe it's not the right phone for you. But, you know, otherwise, I think it looks great. Bezels aside, perhaps. I love the design of it. It feels great. It sounds great. The screen's great. It's got an amazing camera. It's got stock Android. You're going to be the first for all the new features. The always on screen is great. The now playing is great when it works. Honestly, it does work. Google Lens, I think, will be great as it sort of develops and progresses. I don't know. That's it. To me, it's a great phone. I guess your only question is the bezels, and it's maybe the screen size. So if they didn't do an XL, I'd actually be quite happy with it. I'd probably get the blue because I'm just like the freaky colours like that. But I'd be right with that. I think it honestly made me think. I do like the feel in the hand. It's just a very nice device. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But for now, my name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.